98.39 FM KGSO.
At 7:45, it's currently 70 degrees.
Welcome back to the Game Plan right here on Fox Sports Radio, Wichita KGSO. Pleased to be joined on the phone by Mike Reno. It is the second annual Rockin' with Reno report. It's Mike Reno, lead singer of Loverboy, joins us on the phone now. Mike, good morning.
I'm very honored to be on the air with you guys. I love it. I love you guys.
Well, we love you too. We had you last year, and I'll tell you what, we came over, me and another guy came over and picked you up over here in Wichita and drove you back to the Kansas State Fair and had a hell of a time. Before you and I took our picture, I was telling the guys, I still have the picture. You said, Scotty, you got to put on the sunglasses, man. It's rock and roll, because I had my sunglasses in my hand. But you guys rocked it out that night at the Kansas State Fair. So glad you're coming back, this time at the Kansas Star Casino, September 29th. And, we got a lot of questions to ask you. When we talked to you last year, I loved how you talked about your influences in music, AC/DC and some of those guys.
Well, I started off playing the drums and singing all the Led Zeppelin stuff, and then we got into singing after Creedence came out. That was Deep Purple, and 10 years after. And then everybody talked me into standing out front and getting from behind the drums and being a lead singer. That was kind of scary, but I did it, and I'm still doing it.
That's awesome, Mike. Now, I want to take us back. Now, we can talk about present day, and, one of the all-time greatest, now known as one of the all-time greatest producers, Mr. Bob Rock, helped with your first album, the Loverboy self-titled album, and when he introduced you into the 2009 Canadian Hall of Fame, Music Hall of Fame, he introduced you as the legendary Never Miss a Note, Mike Reno. Now, that was then, and I don't know, last month, I don't know if you've seen this, but last month you guys played a show in Atlanta, played with some great guys, with Tommy Two-Tone, Greg Kihn, even Rick Springfield. Now, the writer of that, the Atlanta Constitution, in his review said Mike Reno stole the show and was the vocalist of the night. So you're still carrying it. So, but I want to take it back in fact or fiction. Now, clear this up. When you did your first album, and Turn Me Loose, and it has that famous primal scream. Now, I was told that maybe that wasn't in the first time you cut it. So is that true? And how did that scream come about?
Well, here's the deal. I was cruising around one night feeling uncomfortable, and I didn't really know why. But I went into the studio, and I asked the guys if they'd put up the reel so I could sing it again. And it was a big deal because it takes about an hour to do that, because you have to break the board down, take the tape off, align the machine and get the new tape or the tape on. And in the middle of this, they were playing guitar tracks and stuff, and they said, "Really?" And I said, "Please, please, please." So I had to beg them to do it. And then when I re-sang it, I came up with a bunch of different words, and I came up with that primal scream that you mentioned. And then I walked outside, and all kind of sweaty and getting a breath of fresh air, and I realized it was a full moon, and I think that's probably what got into me.
That's a great story.
Well, I grew up around music. I grew up playing music, Mike, and one of the things that I remember distinctly is when that first record came out, The Kid Is Hot Tonight, one of my favorite songs off that record. Turn Me Loose obviously ended up being a big one. Then obviously the following year you had Get Lucky record come out with Working for the Weekend. I mean, these are songs that have lasted for decades. When you were recording those songs, did you see these being powerhouse songs that we would still be hearing 20, 30 years later on the radio?
You know what? I just remember they were fun to do. They were fun to write. They were fun to sing. And I remember listening to the tracks that we recorded. I said, these are hot tracks. I mean, everybody was on fire. And I kind of had a feeling that these were going to be special tracks, but you never know for sure because you're just getting started, And to be honest with you, I don't think anybody in the band expected to be around, 38 years later, rocking and rolling and doing like great concerts and having fun. You never really look that far ahead when you're young. You just kind of look to the next week or the next month or the next year. So we're very lucky to be back doing what we're doing because we love it.
You had the experience of performing with the NASCAR guys this year. How'd that work out for you?
Well, it was a bit of a sad event when I think the race got shut down because of the rain, but we did a concert anyways, and we were rocking it out real good. But, you can't really race in that rain. It was raining really heavily. We rocked it out. Everybody was standing around with umbrellas. We made the best out of a kind of a bad situation.
Very cool that you were able to do that. We ask our listeners to write some questions. And so you have to be a politician maybe on this one. But here's a question from Barbara where she says, What does Mike like better? I'm in my 50s and I love rocking with the band. My daughter is 22 and she loves rocking with the band. What does Mike like better, seeing his loyal fans or the new folks there?
Well, I'm going to have to go with the loyal folks that are kind of like been around for 30 years, listening to it and growing up to it. But I do love those kids too.
We'll leave the young girls for the drummer.
Yeah, right. That's perfect. Yeah, he's got all the energy.
Yeah, he's got
The
all-
drummers never get the girls
That's
anyway.
right. He's always back behind Mike. Mike gets all the glory.
Mike, it is something that you see, though. We see it in the videos on YouTube, and you've got to see it as you look out at the crowd. There are a ton of young people out in the crowds. Why is that? Why do you bring out that kind of crowd, too?
You know what I'm thinking is, with the internet and everything, and maybe even the kids are raiding their parents' record collection down in the basement. But whatever's happening, some of these kids, they come and they're dressed like Loverboy. They got all the Loverboy stuff on, the headbands and the red clothes, and they're just jumping right in with both feet. And I think it's probably the internet. You know, they investigated it and said, this is great. We like this stuff, which is cool because that means that the music is going from generation to generation.
You guys are currently out on tour right now. You've got a big tour date going. How's the tour going?
It's been fun, really fun. We've done a lot of shows. Outside it's been hot and sticky, and full houses. We've been having a ball.
Let's talk about, you got 40 years almost ready to come up. Is Loverboy planning on anything special for that 40th anniversary that you can share with all the great people in the city of Wichita today?
Well, you know what? We find that it's best to play the classic songs that everybody loves. Every time we throw a new song in, everybody just goes to the bathroom or get something. And, you know, I laugh about that, but it's almost true. If we start a new song, everybody just says, "I'll be right back," because they don't mind missing the new song, but they don't want to miss Working for the Weekend or any of those songs.
Well, it's always one of those things, and I've seen a lot of bands, you know, that now are known obviously as classic rock bands, and it doesn't matter what concert you go to, it's always the same thing. You want everybody to be there, or everybody wants to be there for the old songs, because they want to sing along. And as a performer, when you're up on stage and you've got, 15, 20,000 people singing word for word one of your songs back to you, that's got to be one of the best feelings ever.
Oh, that never gets old. I'll tell you what, that's what keeps us doing it. If the crowd wasn't so into it, I don't know if we'd even be doing it anymore. But most nights the crowd sings louder than we do, for crying out loud.
Let's go back to the front. You started out, according to my sources, that you started out as the lead singer for a group called Hammersmith in 1976, and then from there, Loverboy came about. How did you guys get together and come up with the name?
Well, that's kind of a cool. You know what we were doing? We're sitting around with our girlfriends watching TV and we're having popcorn after doing writing a bunch of songs, and we thought we have to come up with a band name because we didn't want to be just called Reno and Dean. So we started kicking ideas around, and we noticed the girls were reading Cosmopolitan and Vogue and all those girl magazines, and we thought we'd throw a little twist in it and call ourselves Cover Boy rather than. And then Paul calls me up the next morning. He says, "I had a dream that we called ourselves Loverboy," and I said, "Yeah, right. If we don't get the, what kicked out of us for." And anyway, so we laughed about it, and I said, "Geez, that might not be a bad idea. At least it makes people remember the name."
Right.
And the trouble with the name Loverboy is when you get to be a little older, like we are, it's a little embarrassing having the name Loverboy.
When you look at where you've been and where you're going, and just think, in 50 years from now, we're not going to be here. But the music that you've created, the legacy will still be there. That's the kind of impact you've had on the landscape of rock and roll. And, you're not, the baseball players don't look back until they're retired, and you're not retiring. But can you look forward to something like, what would your legacy be? You've cemented that in rock and roll history. And how cool is that to know that it's always going to be there?
I might have to get buried in a pair of red leather pants and a bandana.
That's outstanding. That's what I want to be buried in.
Me and you will do it together.
That's
not looking forward to that day, though.
No, me either. Let's take some time.
Obviously, that was something that was iconic back in the day, was you in the red leather pants, and it was on record albums and everything else. Where did that look come from? Was it something that a stylist came up to you and said, "Hey, I think this is a look," or was this you just going, "I'm just going to be bold and go out and make this happen"?
Well, you know what happened? We actually had our manager. We had a publicist, and her husband had a leather shop. And he says, you guys, when you come in and grab whatever you want, and when you start making some money, you know, you can come and pay me back. And so we thought that was kind of cool. So when I went in and grabbed a bunch of stuff, I grabbed a blue pair, I grabbed a brown pair of leather pants, that is. Then I grabbed a red pair, and I tried them on, and they fit perfect. So I just started wearing those. And then when it came time to do a record album, a new album, they were saying, well, what do these guys wear live? And they says, well, he wears red leather pants and headbands and stuff. And that's where the Get Lucky in the hand behind the butt thing, that all kind of stemmed from that. And that's kind of like, what do you do, right? You just go with the flow. And the art director just thought it was really cool. So he pulled it all together and he made those leather pants even more famous than I did, for crying out loud.
You had pretty good solo stuff as well. And especially, I guess, probably one of the more popular ones was when you sang with Ann Wilson and the song Almost Paradise.
That was a treat. I was asked to do this song, and I could pick any singer in the world I wanted. And I immediately said, same sentence, I just went, Ann Wilson.
Wow.
From Heart. She's so great. And I don't know if you guys know this, but they lived in Vancouver for about 15 years when we were all growing up. And we used to go see them in nightclubs and stuff. They were a Led Zeppelin cover band to begin with.
Wow.
And they started writing some songs and recording in local, the first few albums were recorded here in Vancouver where we live. And, it's really cool because we kind of consider them a homegrown band.
Sure.
Even though they were kind of from Seattle. I think they came up here with their boyfriends just to get out of going to Vietnam, to be honest with you. They just, I don't blame them. I mean,
hell no.
That's a rough road to hoe.
We are looking forward to the Kansas Star Arena, and I just have two special requests, Mike. My favorite Loverboy song of all time. I'd like you to play it. It is
he's going to remember
from the
20 days from now.
You're that's not from Loverboy. Come on.
Yeah. Please, from the Keep It Up album, Queen of the Broken Hearts is my favorite song, and I'd love to hear you play that. And then also, I've got front row center stage, and so when you sing Turn Me Loose, if you could just step forward and put your leg forward so I could grab onto an ankle, please.
What's wrong with you? Your wife's going to smack you.
Let me do that. That'd be great.
I could do both those things for you guys. You know why? Because I love you guys.
Thank you, Mike.
Great. That's great. We're talking to Mike Reno, lead singer for Loverboy right now, right here on Fox Sports Radio, Wichita KGSO. And
no, I was just gonna say I can't believe superfan Ryan is now wanting to just do the bear hug around Mike Reno's ankle.
Mike,
just one time.
Mike, I know the grind sometimes gets weary, but I mean, in all seriousness, I mean, there's times where I come in here in the morning. We get here about 5:36, our show starts at 6 in the morning in the studio, and my ass is wore out by 5 o'clock. And you guys, the grind for 39 years on the road. It takes a toll, but it also takes a great commitment. I can't believe all you guys together. It's been a hell of a ride.
You know what? It's been such a great ride, though. Here's what we get to do. We get to play rock and roll music and feel like we're in kind of like a gang of guys traveling around, being happy and making people happy and meeting people and playing concerts and after parties and meet and greets. We love it. And you know what? It couldn't be better for us. We just totally love what we're doing, so we're perfect for the job.
Well, you guys have had some fun, too. You've been on some 80s cruises, doing some tours. You've been able to play with Rick Springfield. You've been able to play with Def Leppard, other iconic guys that are back from that 80s, 90s era. So you've had a lot of fun with it here recently as well.
Totally. These 80s cruises are fun, and we did 80s in the Sand, which was a whole week down in the Dominican Republic. Man, that was a trip. Every night there was a different concert or two, and so even if you weren't playing that night, you could go see another concert. And we totally had a ball. All the people were great. We got a chance to meet and shake hands and talk to people and hang out with them by the pool, and just, it was really cool. We loved it, and we're looking forward to doing more of that.
So what can fans expect now from Loverboy on September 29th when you come here to the Kansas Star Arena? What will the fans be able to get out of that show when you leave the stage, probably with as many hits as you have, 2-hour show, 2.5-hour show?
2-hour show, and I think it's the all-naked show. So the audience will be all Nick. No, I'm just kidding. What can you expect?
Hopefully we got backup singers.
I got you. You know what we're going to do? We're going to pour our hearts out. We're going to get the crowd into it. We're going to rock it out. We're going to play all your favorite songs and maybe a few surprises. How's that, Chris?
That sounds great. Well, we're looking forward again. Last year we had such a blast, kick-ass time, especially backstage with you before the event. And we talked. I emailed Christian yesterday. Hopefully we'll be able to get some tickets to give out to some of our loyal fans as well on the air here. But appreciate your time today. I know you're a busy guy, and thanks for Ryan for hooking this thing up today. But on behalf of Doug and I, thank you for joining the game this morning.
It's time for your latest news from the KGSO News Center. Brought to you by Phil's Coins, Kansas's largest coin dealer at 9344